you doing here? How you doing? Not bad. Do you need this one on back here? You guys are gonna enjoy this opening video here. You're gonna enjoy this opening video here.
Austin, Texas. High up in the university tower, a sniper shoots at unsuspecting victims in the plaza below as scores of students flee.
Police have apprehended a lone gunman in an attempt on the life of President Ronald Reagan outside the Hilton Hotel in Washington, D.C.
6-hour standoff with police. William Cruz is accused of a violent murder rampage that killed 6 people, including 2 policemen.
Jeffrey Dahmer stands convicted of strangling and dismembering 17 young men and boys throughout the greater Milwaukee area.
Charged with the raping and killing of a 7-year-old girl in a woman's home.
His life imprisonment for drowning her 5 children. Family medicine.
For the slayings of his mother.
The bludgeoning death of Virginia
For the stabbing death of his
son.
Yeah, I just told my 2 daughters.
Sir?
Yeah,
Tell me what happened. Okay, what's going on right now?
I just freaked out. So,
Are you on medication?
yeah,
What kind of meds are you on, sir?
I'm like, yeah, antidepressant.
I have to say, whenever I read in the newspaper of some violent act, one of the first questions I ask is, was the person on medications?
Virginia Tech or the school shootings or my first thought is always, I wonder what drug he was taking.
There are side effects to the use of drugs and also very damaging and dangerous long-term effects which psychiatrists often don't consider as being important.
They induce violence, they induce self-violence, they induce distortions of reality leading to hallucinations, they induce a whole variety of psychiatric problems which are then typically treated with more psychiatric drugs.
We're not talking about a rash, we're not talking about dry mouth, we're not talking about nausea. We're talking about sudden, compulsive, overwhelming suicidal or homicidal urges. We're talking about violent deaths. We're talking about crippling injuries.
Psychiatric drugs are rampant in society today. It's become really an epidemic.
The first drug that they put him on, did not like it. He had very bad reaction. He became a completely different person. He was very, as you would say, aggressive.
He became obsessive compulsive, paranoid about bad guys, afraid of dying. He started sniffing his hand 20 to 30 times a minute, out of control rages.
He couldn't think straight, he couldn't act straight. It made him irritable, it made him violent.
At one point he threatened to kill himself and to kill me, and he was only 6 or 7 years old.
From the moment that I started taking these drugs and to the moment that I stopped, all that happened in my life was things got worse. Depression got worse, the anger got worse, the outbursts got worse.
I had no idea what was happening to me. I would start quivering and shaking. I would drop onto the ground. Literally, I could not control anything.
Within 4 hours of taking 25 milligrams of Zoloft, I was standing on a balcony at a church. And again, there was the thinking, I'm going to jump.
The psychiatrists have carved out a great niche for themselves in the prescribing of drugs, but if you look at the history of treating people for mental and psychological disorders, it's a history fraught with things that don't work.
They're not helping people with drugs, and they're not looking out for harming people. They're ignoring the harm that's coming from all of these drugs.
We see suicidal thoughts, we see suicide,
We see profound depression, mood swings.
This is 911. Who is this? Where is your sister? What is she trying to do? Take pills?
What?
Is she trying to...
Dad told me. Help me!
You don't want to think that a drug could affect someone's behavior in that way, but it does. It happens all the time.
Suicide is just one in a long list of possible side effects of the medications that the doctors will seldom link to the medication, but instead blame it on the patient.
What's the cause of death going to be written? Not going to be written that the drug had anything to do with the death. It's going to be recorded as a suicide.
There's not a single psychiatric drug out there that's going to fix a problem. At best, it's going to cover up symptoms. At worst, it might kill you.
She went to get the laundry, his laundry, which hangs from a hook in Matt's closet. And instead of finding the laundry, she found her son.
By the time he died, he was really mutilating himself. He carved hate into his thigh.
He had gone into his closet that night, tied a rope around his closet rod, put it around his neck, shut the light off, knelt down.
I ran back to him and I touched his back and I says, "No, honey, he's cold, he's gone."
I'm as certain as I can be that it's Alexa killed my daughter.
I will always blame my son's death on psychiatric drugs.
There are numerous reports of significant violent acts, not just suicide, but significant violent acts, murder-suicides, in patients who were being prescribed antidepressants for relatively minor conditions, and they then just snapped.
The drugs that are used are known worldwide to increase suicidality and increase homicidal violence.
Might there be a link between the school shootings or the extremely violent shootings that have occurred in the U.S. and the prescription of certain psychotropic medications? I think the answer to that is a clear yes.
The school shootings that have happened here over the last several years in this country, most of the students who engaged in this violent behavior were on psychotropic medications that had been prescribed to them by psychiatrists.
911, where's your emergency? They've been shot at West Alaska Middle School. In what? They've been shot at Westside Middle School. Okay. Do you know who's doing the shooting? We do not. Okay. What's your neighbor there?
I was lucky I wasn't shot because I was the only one standing up. My friend Nate got shot in the shoulder.
I can't believe this is happening. And there's denying nothing like that happens here. You're supposed to be in college. You should be safe at school. It should be a safe place.
Horrible images that you never want to see again in your mind.
And I was praying to God for someone to come help me.
It wasn't just my boyfriend, it was my best friend.
I didn't think he had any control.
Did you see these kinds of incidences in the 1960s or pre-1960? Was anybody shooting up their classrooms? There were guns. We didn't have as many gun control laws then as we do now. No, we didn't. So what's different? The psychotropic drugs, that's what's different.
crippling people at the same time they claim to be treating them.
They are mainly just drug pushers. You go on this drug, if it doesn't help you, you can try this one. And if that doesn't work, you can try this one.
This is one incredible money-generating machine when this is your approach to treating people.
It's about making money. It's not about getting people better or helping people in a service industry or helping people feel well.
More than anything else, even more horrific than all the lives lost as a result of this callous profit-seeking, is the notion that our country is being destroyed.
How many deaths have to occur before the public wakes up?
Wake up. Wake up.
I had a feeling that may happen. That was about the end of the video anyways. That was the end of that there anyways. I didn't show you that video to scare the crap out of you, but I showed that video to scare the crap out of you. You think this stuff's getting any better right now? The times we're living in? I had a cop that came in the office. He's like, all these people I'm pulling over today, he's like, we're not finding drugs in the cars. I'm not finding marijuana. I'm not finding illegal narcotics like I used to. He's like, everyone's getting crapped up on pharmaceutical drugs, Vicodin, antidepressants, this, that. You do not want to play with some of these drugs. The way they mess with the brain chemistry in your brain, you do not want to toy with this kind of stuff. I got a great lecture tonight. I'm going to hit everything on a basis. This was a little piece of what you're going to see. The U.S. is ranked 37th in the world in health and care. You're going to learn why they're ranked 37th. Being one of the richest countries in the United States here, and we're only ranked 37th, I got some cool stuff here for you. It's official. The flu vaccine is a Category C drug, meaning that there are no adequate safety studies to determine whether the flu vaccine adversely affects pregnant mothers and their fetuses. This year's flu vaccine in the fall is going to contain the regular flu strand, the H1N1, the H2N3, there's some weird strand, that third one. They're going to try to give it all in one. You should see the people that get a yearly flu shot in our office, their mercury content and their hair analysis. If you're polluted with mercury, you're going to shake, tremor, and you're going to have the most dead look in your eye. The World Health Organization list reveals that last year when they created this pandemic, all the people involved in the World Health Organization, Arnold Monto, Nancy Cox, John Wood, Maria Zambon, and Neil Ferguson, these are all the people getting kickbacks from these vaccine companies, are the ones who are making this a pandemic. All you got to do is follow the money trail and you'll realize how big of a scam some of this stuff really is. Your number one preventative thing of the flu, simple vitamin D. Simple vitamin D. Standard process is Cataplex D, 4,000 IUs per pill, each drop with the Bio-D emulsions, 2,000 IUs. No one gets sick with the flu during the summer. Everyone's outside in the sun, soaking up the sun, building up their D levels, and the flu's not running rampant. Case, I had some pretty cool cases in the last few months. I'd have to throw this one up here. It's a 36-year-old female, presents with low back pain, symptoms of urinary tract infections for the last 2 days, burning with urination, and an orange color in the urine. Muscle testing you're going through, finding some simple stuff on her. She had a urinary tract infection, so we used the stuff, the Alboplex with that. The Biodophilus Plus to realign her germ in her gut there, in her urinary tract. This other stuff were for some stones. I took an x-ray for her low back, and this is a cell phone picture here. L2, L3 is right where she slipped her back out, but right here, her whole left kidney's full of kidney stones. She was completely shocked, jaw dropped. I looked at that, I was like, wow. I'm like, you're not having any pain whatsoever? She's like, no, not at all. Her pain was actually shooting down the opposite leg, so I knew it wasn't the kidney that was causing the back pain there. We're using the hydrochloric acid, the betaine, and all that to help dissolve and get some of that stuff out of there. I don't know how much we're going to be able to get that out of there, but she was completely filled with stones there. Know the facts. Antipsychotic drugs were the highest grossing class of medications in 2009 with the sales of $14.9 million. Billion dollars. Lexapro, Zoloft, Prozac, Paxil, Cymbalta, Wellbutrin, drugs like this. Nutrients that they deplete in you: folic acid, vitamin B6, B12, D, and sodium. I am not worried whatsoever about the nutrients that they deplete in you as far as I am with the chemistry and things that they toy with your mind. Getting you on and off these things is a lot harder than the nutrients that they deplete out of you. Playing with serotonin in your brain can go. You're playing with a double-edged sword there. All these kids that shot up these schools, when you stop taking these antidepressants, 3-4 weeks later, your brain completely tanks because it's so dependent on those drugs that produce serotonin in your brain that it completely tanks, and that's when your brain really takes the plunge there. Statistics show that drug abuse in seniors is rising. They have a new name for this. They call it Pharmageddon. A recent study of substance abuse and mental health services administrations found a dramatic increase in illicit drug use in adults 50 and over. This all the baby boomers using more and more pills. I got a statistic chart right after this here of breaking it down from each age range here. Ages 18 to 34. Average number of prescriptions filled annually. Each year, 3. And as you start going down the age, 50 to 64, 13 filled each year. 65 to 79, 20. 80 plus, 20. Kind of a cool chart there. That's from the Center of an Aging Society, University of Georgetown, September 2002. This was 2002. I couldn't find anything more recent than that, so I'm sure it's gone up quite dramatically since then. Polypharmacy in 2004 is from the CDC. 5 out of 6 elderly, 83% take at least one prescription medication daily. 75% of Americans over the age of 65 took an average of 4 prescription drugs on a daily basis. 11% of the population take 5 prescription drugs daily. Some of these statistics are pretty scary. I got 4 nice little charts here. Everything that you see tonight, you could get on email. I'm going to send out, put my PowerPoint on some, I'm going to over the email, and it's being recorded here, so if you miss anything, don't feel bad there. This is the markups on some of these drugs here. Lipitor, consumer price, $272 here. Cost of the active ingredient, $5.80. The markup is 4,696%. You want to know why our healthcare is going down the drain? Zoloft, consumer price, $206. Cost of active ingredients, $3.20. These are a ton of the popular medications. These are just the few of the markups on some of the popular ones here. These are all your major pharmaceutical companies here. In America, the cost of prescription drugs rises 12% every single year. This is a direct correlation to all the advertising that they do on the TV and the radios and the magazines. Break that down here a little bit more. I'm going to go a little bit Or with the vitamin and FDA stuff here, I'm just trying to see what I was trying to get out of this point here. America has no caps on the price of prescriptions. America has 20 years patent laws here, so until that patent ends, generics can enter the market, which are often 80% cheaper. %90 of seniors take daily prescriptions costing $1,500 per year. 1 in 4 seniors skip doses to reduce their own costs. I know of seniors going on the internet and going on Canada and trying to grab prescriptions a little cheaper. You break this down here, Big Pharma collecting, spending more than $20 billion a year marketing and patenting their drugs. $4.7 billion goes into consumer advertising, TV ads, printing ads, online ads. It's everywhere. You pick up a Reader's Digest, you can't even get through the magazine without every other page being a drug ad on there. It's an absolute embarrassment. This talks a little bit about the research here, and I'll get a little bit more into that. They kind of skew the research and statistics in favor of these drugs that the doctors are reading to make it in favor of what they're trying to get across to you guys. And then Big Pharma often exaggerates the condition which you have. Acid reflux is no longer acid reflux. They call it GERD, gastroesophageal reflux disease, restless leg syndrome, premenstrual disorder. All these disorders and diseases, they try to exaggerate them to push their drugs and sell them more. Laveza, this is my new favorite one right here. This is fish oil. This is nothing but fish oil here. $1.17 per pill, $150 a month insurance-wise for that one drug. This is fish oil. Standard processed tuna oil, all your omega-3s here. $19 for 120 capsules, lasts around 60 days. And yet they're going to try to patent some of these vitamins and fish oils and run off and just rob people and get more money from that there. It's absolute embarrassment. We get into some of the cool stuff here. Tylenol is the #1 cause of acute liver failure. Just making sure I'm not skipping over anything here. Good. Advil, Motrin, ibuprofen. These will absolutely tear up people's kidneys. This is from the National Institute of Diabetes and Digestive and Kidney Diseases. They did a study over here, and just over their study, just all urologists will absolutely tell you that these drugs will rip up your kidneys. When we're doing blood pressures in the office and someone's got a high bottom number, which is their diastolic number, say if they're 140 over 105, 110, that bottom number is a direct correlation with someone's kidneys. And the first thing we're going to ask them, are you taking any Advil, ibuprofen, Motrin, anything of that nature? Most of the time, oh yeah, I take that daily. A lot of people take this like a multivitamin for their little daily aches and pains and headaches here. These will absolutely tear up your kidneys. Since their initial use in the 1915, NSAIDs have been associated with significant morbidity and mortality. This is primarily due to the gastrointestinal adverse effects of these ulcerative and bleeding causing on the digestive tract. I got another case story later on in the PowerPoint here. Go over some kind of cool stuff. A patient that came in with some pancreatitis issues here. It's estimates are that up to 4.5% of NSAID users develop serious GI events, including ulcers and bleeding. There's a 400% increased risk in hospitalizations with these simple NSAIDs. Simple over-the-counter things here. Aspirin, acetaminophen, ibuprofen, all your Tylenol things. And the nutrients that they deplete in you: folic acid, iron, potassium, sodium, vitamin C, and glutathione. The problem mainly is going to be more with the GI bleeds and the pancreatitis. We've had patients in office so irritated from doing their daily regimen of aspirin that they can't even keep baby food and crackers down because of the simple irritation to the pancreas. This is a great one here. Drugs that will turn you diabetic. These include blood pressure drugs like diuretics, beta blockers, steroids, glucocorticoids, and some antipsychotic drugs, which are used to treat serious mental illnesses. It is unclear whether these certain drugs actually cause diabetes or speed up the diagnosis with someone prone to this disease. We see this all the time, and it's great to monitor your blood work to see how your sugar levels are running. Taking these beta blockers, Lasix, steroids, and the antipsychotic medications, because they will mess up your sugar levels. A few doctors give you the warning. Most of the time, no, they're not going to give you the warning. Your pressure being a little bit over 140 scares them too much, so they got to throw you on a beta blocker and start the downward cycle there. You got the blood pressure issues, and you start on this, and you get diabetes, you're babysitting a whole new realm of disease, more medication, and it's just a slow downward spiral there. Steroids, prednisone, hydrocortisone, these right here deplete your body of calcium, folic acid, magnesium, potassium, selenium, vitamin A, B6, C, D, K, and zinc. Pretty much if you take steroids long enough, they'll make your bones nice and brittle. We see a lot of patients with autoimmune issues, and they kind of scratch their heads. They don't know what to do with them, so they just put them on high doses of steroids. Do steroids long enough, you'll get fat, overweight, and you'll mess up your bone structure. As simple as that. Diuretics. These are Lasix. These are water pills here. These are given to blood pressure patients to help lower the blood pressure. If they got swelling in the legs, doctors will give this out to get some of the swelling out of them here. These are some of the more common ones up top here. Nutrients that they deplete out of you: calcium, magnesium, potassium, sodium, vitamin B1, B6, C, zinc, CoQ10, folic acid. Pretty much to put this in an easy remembering way, these pills make you pee. So you're going to pee all your minerals away, and you're going to pee your water-soluble vitamin, all your B vitamins all away. You pee enough of your B vitamins away, you'll start having heart issues and palpitations if you lose enough of that B1, that thiamine in your system. Also, peeing away your minerals does great for your bone structure too. Osteoporosis, let's talk about this. This is very interesting. Bisphosphonates. Here's your Fosamax, Antonel, Boniva, all your popular ones right up here. They have Fosamax has a half-life estimated than greater than 10 years. That means this pill you're taking once a month stays in your body for at least 10 years. These drugs inhibit normal osteoclastic function, bone repair. So if you think of your bones like your skin, you got skin that peels off, and you got skin that builds from the inside out, and your skin just peels from the outside. These drugs inhibit that outside from those bones peeling away. So you're left with these drugs maintain old, brittle, diseased bone and replace it with new, strong, functional bone. And the longer you take these drugs, the more brittle and weak it'll make your skeleton become, like a glass bone effect. Osteonecrosis of the jaw, rotting of the jaw, is very common with these drugs. You cannot reverse that when that starts happening. Fosamax revenues $2 billion a year, and that's in 2004. This is from the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism. 10 years and longer, once a month. The top 200 prescriptions of 2009 by revenue. Who wants to guess number one? Zoloft. No, that's not it. Lipitor. Number two is Nexium. Plavix is your blood thinner. That one's a bronchial dilator right there. And Seroquel's an antipsychotic right there. These are your top 5 by revenue, your top money makers, all right here. I'm going to break these all down one by one to show you all the little deficiencies they're pushing people into and go over some cool stuff here. Statins. I'm going to absolutely hammer the statins here tonight. Lipitor, Zocor, Tricor, Simvastatin, nutrients that they deplete, CoQ10, beta-carotene, calcium, folic acid, iron, magnesium, phosphorus, vitamin A, B12, D, E, and K. The CoQ10 is huge. We have patients that come in the office with some weird symptoms that don't make sense, bodily aches, muscle aches, thinking it's their back, this and that, heart issues. The very thing this thing's trying to help you with, heart attacks and strokes, is on the labels of side effects, still heart attacks and strokes. So I'm going to break this down quite a bit here. Side effects, CNS toxicity. Here's your hemorrhage, stroke, edema. Elevated cancer risk. You drop your cholesterol below 130, the literature dips into how you have a higher increased rate of cancer being 130 and below. Muscle pain, that's from not enough of the CoQ10 there. Nausea, that's the pancreatitis irritating your system. Sexual dysfunction, this is going to include a lot of the males because testosterone is cholesterol based. You suck enough fat out of you, you're not going to be building enough hormones there. UTIs, memory loss, your brain's half fat, half cholesterol. Keep sucking enough fat out of there, you're going to mess up your memory there. That's just some of it. These are just some of the side effects here. Statins. The big pharma tells it statin drugs are miracle medicines that have prevented millions of heart attacks and strokes, but recent studies published by the British Medical Journal tells a completely different story. For every heart attack prevented by this drug, 2 or more people suffer from liver damage, kidney failure, cataracts, or extreme muscle weakness as a result of taking these drugs. That's a very popular source right there, too. More drugs as heart disease gets more deadly. Despite the developing of increasingly potent statins, cholesterol-lowering drugs capable of markedly lowering cholesterol levels, coronary disease remains the leading cause of death in the western United States here. Even after prescribing the drug for nearly 20 years with no apparent benefit, cholesterol continues to be the #1 cause of cardiovascular disease, and statins are still the main thing of choice of treatment for these doctors. That's the New England Journal of Medicine 2006. Lipitor. Now let's break this down. Lipitor, manufactured by Pfizer, was the highest grossing medication in 2009. This is by Pharmacy Times here. Although revenue actually decreased that year by 3%, it still brought in $7.5 billion a year. Why is our medical system this crappy? Let's break this down even more. Lipitor reduces the risk of heart attacks by 36%. All right, let's take that 36%. Let's take that little star, go down here. That means in a large clinical study, 3% of patients taking a sugar pill or placebo had a heart attack compared to 2% of the patients taking Lipitor. So what does that all mean? You got a 1% absolute risk reduction. Statistics. Anyone who knows the slightest bit about statistics, you can learn how these things are skewed. And all these doctors, everyone's got a Lipitor and aspirin deficiency. Everyone's got a Lipitor and aspirin deficiency. Bob Probert came into the office. If he came into the office and I knew his dad died at 41, the first thing I would have sent him out for was those clotting factors. Homocysteine, lipoprotein A, C-reactive protein, and fibrinogen. Those are clotting factors that run uniquely, genetically different in everyone's family, and people are plopping down early like this. You need to run those factors. It's not a cholesterol issue. LDL, your bad cholesterol, and triglycerides will make your blood sticky, but those 4 factors are absolutely important to run if something like that's running in your family. This is embarrassing. You'll see your Zocor and Lipitor commercial tonight on TV, though. Antacids, Nexium, Tums, Prilosec, Protonix, Pepsid, Zantac, Tagamet. You know how these drugs all work? They just turn off your stomach. You know how your statins and all work? They turn off your liver. All these things just turn off organs in you. Nutrients that they deplete: B12, calcium, phosphorus, vitamin B12, folic acid, iron, zinc, and B1, your thiamine. Everyone thinks, it's embarrassing because every time my stomach hurts, I went to the doctor. He said I had GERD. He gave me Nexium. He gave me Prilosec. Every stomach ache that goes to the medical doctor, they call it GERD and put them on this stupid crap, and they don't know what they're doing. They'll scope them. Be like, all right, I don't find anything. Stay on your Nexium, Prilosec, and they do this train effect. It's absolutely embarrassing. If you have true acid reflux, most of the time these people don't have enough acid in their stomach because their carbohydrates are fermenting and their proteins are putrefying in their stomach. Those acids from the foods that you're not properly breaking down come up and give you that acid reflux from not having enough acid, but they give you these medications to turn off your stomach and turn off the cells that are producing hydrochloric acid in your stomach. You need hydrochloric acid to break down your proteins, absorb your minerals, and pick up your B12. B12 activates the intrinsic factor in your stomach so you could absorb B12. You do that long enough, you'll go into dementia in your 70s and 80s. B12 is highly, in regards with the literature, noted that B12 deficiency will mimic Alzheimer's. A dead stomach over time, not absorbing your minerals, and we'll see this on a hair analysis, and I run in that category, which in my next lecture I'm going to be showing some of these hair analysis because they're an absolute train wreck. If you're not picking up your minerals properly, you will have that dementia issue there. This is very interesting here. Antacids, antihistamines, and the cancer leak. These antacids and antihistamines speed up the growth of cancer in the body by blocking the P-450 cytochrome enzyme system in your body. You could take a Tagamet Monday, have a drink or two on Friday, and be absolutely drunk on that Friday because that Tagamet is completely blocking up your liver so much that the alcohol just goes right in your system. These people that are blowing ridiculous amount of numbers when they get pulled over for a DUI, they're on one of these medications. I had some very interesting cases. I'll talk about a GERD patient, James Hunter. He just died last month. He's my patient. He's played in the NFL on the Detroit Lions. I was treating him for some gout, some acid reflux stuff. He had a hiatal hernia. I had to push down on him. His dad died. His mom died. His two brothers died. I was working on fixing his acid reflux and getting that stuff situated. He gave me a great compliment after one visit, getting him on his stuff. His gout was under control. Acid reflux was getting under control. He said, I haven't felt this good since I entered the NFL draft. It was a cool compliment. I gave him the clotting factor sheet. It's like, you ought to run this one, get your ducks in order, we'll fix this, get that in order, we should run these clotting factors on you with a history like that. His friend came up to me last month, he's like, you hear what happened, right? I was like, no, what happened? He's like, woke up dead last month, beginning of August. I was like, you gotta be kidding me. I was completely stunned. This guy was in the African American Hall of Fame in 1996, played for the Detroit Lions. Retired, working for Anheuser-Busch, drinking 6 to 8 glasses of beer a day. I'm trying to fix gout on someone that wants to drink that kind of alcohol a day. It's very interesting. Very sad. Here's another patient case here. A lady came in. She's in the middle of, she had some type of vaginal cancer. She's like, I want to use some alternative things and some nutritional things to help me battle this stuff. And she's like, a month later after she came in, she's like, it popped up. I had a reoccurrence of this. They want to do chemo. They want to do this and that. She's like, what am I doing wrong? What am I doing wrong? I'm doing the cruciferous complete. I'm doing the Vitanox. I'm, trying to change things around. I was just digging deeper, and I dug it out of her that she was taking Tagamet and Prilosec, and I handed her that article here. Her jaw completely dropped. She's like, I've been taking this crap for years. She's So you mean to tell me this is blocking up my liver, speeding this growth up after me trying to change everything around? That's that missing link? Like, yep, that's that missing link for you. She's completely stunned. Anticoagulants here, warfarin, Plavix, blood thinners here, nutrients that they deplete, none reported, but I'm going to dip into this a little bit more here, because a lot of people are on Coumadin and stuff. Here's your Coumadin article. Used as an anticoagulant, inhibits vitamin K dependent clotting factors. Now, everyone on Coumadin, they tell you, oh, don't eat too many green things because that's your vitamin K. It's going to mess up with your clotting stuff, so completely cut yourself out of eating all your green stuff. We're going to completely thin down your blood. Research has been shown or clear that Coumadin promotes bone loss, promotes bone thinning, promotes weakening of the bone, 340% increased risk of vertebral fractures. Now let's take this to the next level. They're telling you not to stay away from eating greens. We need to just completely thin your blood down. Hope you don't fall, hit your head, and bleed to death, but don't eat any of your greens here. Vitamin K. So don't eat your greens here, right? Low vitamin K levels are associated with increased risk of fractures. Both animal and human studies have shown that vitamin K helps prevent and treat osteoporosis. Low K levels have been found in women with hip fractures compared with those who do not have hip fractures. Neither vitamin D or calcium can promote healthy bone mineralization without adequate supply levels of vitamin K. But don't take vitamin K because you're on Coumadin. So do you think vitamin K is important? This is a very cool case. My buddy that I worked with at the hospital went to, this picture is a little crummy here, but there's a little chipped off bone here, right there. This is called a limbus vertebrae. He slipped his back out, and I fixed him up in a few adjustments. He came over to me. He's like, yeah, you want to look at my x-rays? I'm like, yeah, sure, let's take a look at them here. He's like, they told me I fractured my back. I'm like, what? I'm like, you wouldn't be walking at all if you really fractured your back. I'll look at it. I see that little chip. I'm like, they say you fracture your back? I'm like, you want to know what this is? So yeah, what is it? I'm like, this is a limbus vertebrae. That's a growth plate that has not been completely closed. It's a congenital anomaly. It's not a broken back. A broken back, if you fracture your vertebrae, those end plates would be indented, and that vertebrae would be completely smashed. He went back to the doctor. He's like, this ain't no fracture. This is a limbus vertebrae. Doctor's like, scratched his head, walked back, didn't say anything, came back, he's like, yeah, you're right. That's all I said. Painkillers, muscle relaxers, physical therapy, this, that. Physical therapy aggravated his back. 2 adjustments, L in between L4 and L5 on the left-hand side, clunk, clunk, and right in. That's not a fracture. That's a growth plate that he did not have enough minerals growing up to completely close that growth plate right there. They could have ran in a really bad direction if they wanted to with him there. Your bronchodilators here, singular albuterol, nutrients that they deplete potassium. You want to know what a potassium deficiency looks like? I can tell you from firsthand because this is probably my first home run that I had on myself here. Your heart will absolutely pound and thump through your chest at night. Your pulse will race and your heart will just absolutely pound. Potassium puts the brake on your heart and on your system there. I burnt through my potassium, and organically bound minerals is the first thing that put that brake on me and fixed that real quick. That was a very cool thing. Psychotherapeutics here, Seroquel, Resveratrol. These other 2, nutrients that they deplete, B2 and CoQ10. Not too worried about that at all, as I am, as far as what these drugs do to your mind, getting on them and getting off of them. I had a camp counselor that treats youth kids anywhere from 10 to 18, all on these drugs, trying to, help them. They come from broken families, this and that, yada yada, this story. He said almost every one of these kids is on Seroquel. He's like, I don't know what it is about that one drug, but it cuts something off in their mind where they don't feel guilt for things they do and the actions that they do. He specifically said, I know it's an absolute challenge dealing with anyone who's on that one drug. He just asked, are those antidepressant drugs? These are social therapeutic drugs. Antidepressants work on your serotonin. These ones work on a little different realm here, a little bit different. We've had patients that you want to look up some really crazy side effects. You look up side effects on these drugs and they'll scare the crap out of you. We've had some patients in the office where they've had such a severe drug reaction. I had a patient about a month ago. Her arm was stuck like this and her leg was like this. She was 16 and in a wheelchair because she can't pull her arm apart. She had a reaction with a drug, and all these doctors are scratching their head, passing her off to one doctor to the doctor. No, it wasn't me. It wasn't that drug, this and that. You look at all these drug ads on TV, they got lawyers going after certain drugs from these reactions with that. This is some scary stuff. They call this tardive dyskinesia. We had a patient in office. She was in a psych ward, came out. Her leg was so crazy, it couldn't stop. I kid you not, she sat down, is going like this the entire time. She's standing up, she's still moving, it's going like that from a reaction with one of these drugs. It's called tardive dyskinesia. When you see these lawyers going after some of these drugs for conditions like that, we see some of this stuff firsthand. It's not fun. You don't want to play with these drugs if you don't have to. Now, I went from the top 5 drugs of revenue over to the top 5 drugs of most prescribed drugs. Your first drug, your pain medications. Your second one, lisinopril, hypertension. Third one, simvastatin, high cholesterol. Fourth one's for hypothyroidism there. And your fifth one, antibiotics. We all know antibiotics and steroids, they all hand them out like candy anyways. So I want to break a little bit of that down here. Pain medications. The research behind prescription addiction. 2 million Americans use prescription opiate painkillers every year. In some communities, abuse of prescription painkillers has overtaken that of cocaine and marijuana. About 9% of the population has used pain relievers illegally in their life. Misuse has increased since the 1980s, and fewer than 500,000 new users per year. It's an estimate that 1.6 million Americans use prescription-type pain relievers non-medically for the first time in 1998. Among youth aged 12 to 17, the incident rate increased from 6.3 to 32.4 per thousand new users from 1990 to 1998. This is what that cop was telling me. He finds in these cars, everyone's on Vicodin, selling this stuff, this and that. When at one of my old jobs, I seen one of these kids so hooked to these Vicodin painkillers, he popped about 8 or 10 of them all at once. About 15 minutes later, he got so nauseated, threw them up, and picked his pills back up out of that to take them again. I kid you not, these are how hooked people are getting to these medications. This is kind of cool and recent. The sheriff wants a database of prescription drug users. This is from North Carolina. They're petitioning state legislators to be given access to a database of patients who who have possession of powerful prescription painkillers and other controlled substances. The state sheriff's associate fronted the idea last week, saying it would help them make more arrests of people who illegally sell prescription narcotics, painkillers, almost all of which are acquired through doctor prescription of the FDA-approved drugs. This is how much this is becoming a problem. Cops are like, all right, we got a new fish to fry here. It's not the illegal narcotics, it's these painkillers and all these people getting on the, it's easy to get the prescription and carry that around. You don't have to worry about concealing and hiding that stuff around. It's legal, right? This is the newer problems that are facing us. Pharmageddon. You're going to keep hearing that. Case study. This is kind of cool here. 17-year-old girl, persistent stomach pain and nausea all over, chest pain, throws up 80% of what she eats. Patient was eating a lot of fruits and vegetables and on many meds when symptoms started. Hospitalized 8 times in the last 2 months. So she comes in to see me. This was after lunch. She was throwing up in a bag the entire time during the visit. So trying to hold down my lunch was kind of fun. Alicia, can I have you come up here? I'm going to demonstrate exactly muscle testing what I did with her. She had chest pain. She had stomach pain. This girl was an absolute mess. Muscle testing. Here's my chart. Apple, cigarette. First things first. You should check strong for an apple. Hold that tight. Strong. Go to my cigarette. Weak. So I want to see if she was testable first. Second thing I'm going to do, I'm going to poke on her. I'm going to go right to one spot. No, that's not too bad. Go to their pancreas spot, poke on that. She jumped like that. I'm like, I was expecting that. Go right to the center, kind of jumping again. So I wasn't kind of expecting that. But that was just poking around, so I have to muscle test to pinpoint everything that's going on. So I know she's testable. Heart, infection reflex, heart, pancreas. That was weak. So I grabbed my stuff for pancreatitis. Go right to it. Arm strong. So I put her on some stuff for pancreatitis. That was first. I got to break this all down because she had a lot going on. This chest pain made no sense to me whatsoever. Hiatal hernia. Whoosh. Completely weak on. Her stomach was so pushed up in her chest, it was causing her to have chest pain. So I had to lay her down on a table as a mechanical move, jerk that all the way down. She got up. She's like, I could breathe. She's like, I can't believe it. She has been throwing up so much because her pancreas was so irritated that her stomach got pushed up on her. I was like, all right, I'm still not satisfied there. All right, check that. Push that back in place. Hiatal hernia, strong. Pancreas was weak. Second thing, nutrition, weak. Negative, positive. Brush that down. Heart, thyroid, stomach. I was like, all right, something's still going on with your stomach. So you can have a seat there. Thanks. So this is her list of medications. She's 19 years old and on 10 different medications. Birth control, Cymbalta, this, that, Vicodin, Prilosec, Zantac, this, that, and medical marijuana. I go, half this crap. I'm like, the first thing I grabbed her chart. I walked in a room. I'm like, I have senior citizens come in with not even on this much medication. I'm like, you're 19 years old. What are you doing on all this crap? She's like, I wake up with pain every single day. I got pain here. I got pain there. So I cut her off the fruits and vegetables because all the pesticides are going to irritate that pancreas. I go, you got to cut out this medication. It's as simple as that. I can fix your stomach. I get you squared away. You got to cut back these medications because they're all irritating your pancreas. She goes, what am I going to do for pain? I'll look at her chart. Go, smoke some weed. I'm like, that's not going to aggravate your pancreas like those other synthetic chemicals are going to. She came in on her follow-up visit. She was still throwing up a little bit, so I had jerked that stomach back. She was doing a ton better. She's like, I can't believe how much better I'm doing. I'm like, I could probably just pull you off all that stuff. You've been feeling better anyways. But the missing link to that were these two drugs right here. Both the ones that start with the F here. I had to look those up because I'm like, you're checking something with that stomach. Your muscle testing strong for what I use for ulcers and gastritis. I'm like, you got a stomach bleed. Those two medications were causing her stomach to bleed. The rest were crapping up her pancreas and making her all nauseated and throwing up. She couldn't hold anything down. Here's a list of medications that will cause you to have pancreatitis. this is just a small list. I'm sure if you looked up half of those drugs, there's a ton. Patrick Swayze, he died of pancreatic cancer. If I pushed on his pancreas spot, he would have jumped. He was a smoker and he was a drinker. You could smoke or you could drink, but when you do both, he pushed his pancreas over the edge there. You could chemically irritate your liver all day long, and it'll keep chugging along and chugging along. The liver will take a beating all day long. As soon as you irritate your system enough with chemicals and irritate that pancreas, it's going to let you know with nausea. Here's your blood pressure medications. ACE inhibitors, beta blockers. Here's some listing of some common ones here. Nutrients that they deplete: CoQ10, phosphorus, potassium, sodium, zinc, calcium, magnesium, and B1. You know, if you got to do a blood pressure medication, an ACE inhibitor is better than a beta blocker. The beta blocker is going to tear up your kidneys and turn you diabetic. If I told you Dr. Ten's blood pressure, his parents' blood pressures, you guys would probably all get very shocked. And they're 80 and 84. His dad runs 165 over 95, and his mom's 210 over 110. Ask him what he does for them. Thyroid medication, Synthroid, levothyroxine here. Nutrients that they deplete: iron. We got some nice alternatives for some thyroid patients here. You know, there's a lot of hypothyroidism in the north here. The iodine sources in the soil are very weak. No one's getting enough iodine. Iodine feeds in women the thyroid, the breast, the ovary, so they're going to have more occurrences of hypothyroidism than men. Got some pretty interesting cases with some 18-year-old with a hypothyroid and some Crohn's issue. So I got some interesting cases with that. But you know, if you want an Armour, the medication Armour, which they kind of pulled off the market there, that seemed to work fine with the patients. And you know, we'll check these medications with patients. We'll muscle check them. They don't all check bad for patients. You know, if someone's that completely irritated with their pancreas, I'll tell them, bring in whatever you're taking pill-wise. I want it, even if it's a supplement, I want everything you're taking in your mouth and bring it in your next visit. I'll muscle test them all over the pancreas. And I'll tell them, this is your good side, this is your bad side. Everything on that side's messing you up. Everything over here is fine. It's kind of funny, too, because I had a lady fixed her nausea in about 5 days, or actually over the weekend. She brought in, I told her to bring in all her stuff she's taken. She brought in she's like, I don't do medication. I'm like, all right, something's irritating you. I'm like, whatever you're putting in your mouth, I want it on that table so I could check that. She had 25 to 30 different vitamins from all these different companies, health stores, this and that, and about 20 of that 25 tested weak over her pancreas. I'm like, I don't know what's in it, where they came from. I'm like, but it's not agreeing with you. So stop that. Use the Argnex for the pancreatitis. That was completely gone like that. We use high-grade stuff, biotics research and standard process, only sold through healthcare professionals. You want good results, you got to use stuff that gets the results. Antibiotics, they hand this stuff out like candy. Amoxicillin, penicillin, tetracycline, all those fun things. Nutrients that they're going to deplete. You know, it's going to deplete all your good bacteria in your gut there. Biotin, potassium, B vitamins, your B1, your B2, 3, 6, B12, vitamin C, E, K, inositol, magnesium, and zinc. I had a patient over the summer, got bit by a little bee on his arm, started getting all swollen and red. Went to urgent care. They gave him a potent antibiotic. Irritated his pancreas. He was throwing up. Loose bowel movements from it, killing off all his good bacteria there. And he's like, man, I can't. I was like, I'm having more problems from taking this antibiotic than what I am from this little bee sting on me. Overuse of antibiotics for its vicious cycle here. It's hard to believe that according to a study published in October 2007 in the Journal of American Medical Association, were close to 100,000 cases of MRSA. This is your methicillin-resistant Staph aureus antibiotic-resistant infections. You're going to see more and more of this because these antibiotics are becoming mutated and stronger to these drugs, and they're having to go stronger and stronger. The number one cause of death in the hospital is hospital-induced infection. I had a lady just last week. She's only 35, and she's had little MRSA outbreaks since the beginning of the year, January, up till now. She's like 5 times. She's like, I'm spreading it to my husband and my kid. I'm worried that I'm going to spread it to my kid. She's like, I can't go to work. I got these sores on me, this and that. She's like, I'm sick of doing these antibiotics, and they're lancing these boils I keep getting on me. He's like, this is a mess. She's like, I never had this problem. And it all stemmed from her having a C-section with her kid. It was a nice hospital-induced infection she had. So what did I do? I used a coated garlic, the MediHerb coated garlic. Each pill, that's 5,000 grams of garlic that's coated to get past your stomach and then break down. I used the ADP, which is oregano oil. I used the Thymex, which is what we normally use for the staph infections, and I used some grapefruit seed extract to go after this blood infection. Absolutely, I told her I'm just going to clean her out. I said, absolutely stop the milk and ice cream. No more. That's going to feed those infections. Anyone who's a bacterial person, strep throat, earaches, you will know how much milk and ice cream mess up your infections there. Let's see. Even the life-threatening side effects of Adderall is frequently abused in college. I could tell you some first-hand stories with this. The potent cocktail of amphetamines, Adderall, is basically a legalized form of methamphetamine, speed. This is Adderall and Ritalin. You know, the kind of that you cook up in the meth labs here. That's what they're comparing this stuff to. This is from a 60 Minutes report here. All these kids in college now, they're trying to get their hands on this Adderall for this crash studying. Everyone wants to do this crash studying and keep cramming, and they're wiped out from the week before, and they want to study all night, so they're getting their hands on this, and, you know, depending on what state you're in, you know, you could get this, you know, just go in and say, I can't focus. Everyone's today's got ADD or ADHD anyway, so they're just going to hand it to you. Ritalin and Adderall amp up your cortisol in your system. This is what's going to give you that internal rage. Women love this, especially the college girls, because it suppresses your appetite. You don't want to eat, and it keeps them skinny. We have kids in the office that can't sleep at night, fall asleep because they're on Adderall, and it amps up their cortisol, and they can't fall asleep. And they're eating so much crap that their sugar tanks, and they can't stay asleep at night. You doing the switch there? He's just switching a tape here real quick. He told me to wait up there. All right. So there's a ton of kids on this. College kids with Adderall. It's everywhere. This is kind of cool. Whether you're taking pharmaceuticals or not, if you're drinking tap water, you are taking some. This is according to the U.S. Geological Survey study back in 2002. Antidepressants, blood pressure medications, diabetic medications, anticonvulsants, oral contraceptives, hormone replacement therapy drugs, chemotherapy drugs, antibiotics, heart medications, and even codeine were all showing up in the water supplies of American cities. This study was the first national scale evaluation of pharmaceutical drugs contamination in streams, and roughly 80% of the streams tested were found to be contaminated as well. I think when I remember when this first came out, they said New Jersey had the highest rate of this stuff. So this stuff's going through people's urine systems, being recycled, doesn't get filtered out, and if you're drinking tap water, you're probably getting a little bit of this in here. This was from Natural News, July 29, 2010 there. Why do doctors prescribe drugs that kill the nurses administering them? This is MSNBC. Multiple studies going back decades have found evidence of contamination in areas where workers prepare and deliver chemotherapy. Still more studies have found these agents in the blood and urine of nurses and others handling them. Last year, a Danish study of more than 92,000 nurses found it to have an elevated risk of breast, thyroid, nervous system, and brain cancers in the nursing population. This is kind of interesting. People dealing with this stuff here. My mom is a nurse at Royal Oak Troy Beaumont in the oncology unit. People handing these chemotherapy drugs, this stuff's getting in their system. Train wrecking them. FDA and vitamins. Once in a while, I'll get a doctor that calls the office and be like, you know, the patient that we're kind of sharing, is the stuff you're using FDA approved? The drug companies financially support the FDA in the form of users' fees for drug approval. So naturally, the FDA tends to protect the hand that feeds it. In addition, from 1998 to 2005, Drug and Chemical Corporation spent $758 million on lobbying politicians in efforts to influence what the food and drug products can be marketed and how they are labeled. The inevitable result here is that the FDA puts the drug companies' profits ahead of your health. I have some quick statistics from 2004. George Bush received $1 million. John Kerry received $500,000. The Congress alone got $100,000. Drug and Chemical employ over 1,200 full-time lobbyists, including 40 former Congress members. You could trace back the money trail. You could find some interesting things. Swine flu last year. All right, you get sick. What was the medical choice of treatment? Tamiflu. Rumsfeld is the CEO of Tamiflu, and Al Gore was his biggest stock shareholder. They were running to the bank laughing at everyone running out in line to get that swine flu shot. All you got to do is follow the money trail. I got a pretty interesting story I meant to mention with that painkiller. We got the judge's son that comes in, Scott Powers. He's a lawyer, and he slipped out his back about a few months ago. And he was like, you know, it's kind of interesting, you know, I was limping around my yard and this and that. Some of the neighbors knew I had some back issues going on. He's like, I have multiple neighbors come up to me and try to give me all these painkillers. And he's like, hey, if you have any problem, man, hey, I got this painkiller, this, that. And he's like, why do you have this stuff? You know, I hurt my foot back 10 years ago. I get a little ache or pain once a month or something. So, you know, I got this endless common prescription. But, hey, let me know if you want any, you know. A lot of people are walking pharmacies today. And I tell you what, you want to know who the biggest walking pharmacies are? Nurses. You should see some of the medication lists that some of our nurses come in with. Flawed studies here. This is very interesting. Research published in medical journals gets the golden star of approval in the media. Yet many, as not most, of the findings are incredibly misleading. This is from the New England Journal of Medicine here. Trials can be rigged in dozens of ways, and it happens all the time. Back in 2005, Dr. John Leonidas, or whatever, an epidemiologist at school here, showed that I butchered that one pretty good, didn't I? Less than 50% chance that the results of any randomly chosen scientific paper will be true. They skew these studies to make these drugs look good, and these are what these doctors read all day long, and you'll hear all the time, oh, Lipitor is the most researched drug. It's been researched for 20 years, but I show you how you break down just that one little star and look at the statistic, and it's not really saving people yet. That's their main choice of treatment. Lipitor, aspirin. Lipitor, aspirin. It's absolutely embarrassing. Deaths from conventional medicine here. Painkillers, 16,000 100,000 per year. Antidepressants, 60,000 prescriptions were written every hour. Millions of adverse reactions, hundreds of thousands of deaths. I don't have a specific number there. Tylenol and medications such as, or acetaminophen, which is in Tylenols and certain pain medications. That was actually what was causing that girl's stomach with that bleeding there. It's the number one result of liver and kidney failure there and damage there. Cough and cold medications have been linked to an increase in infants' death as well as abuse by teens. Tylenol, we're going to find, is going to mess up more of your liver than anything, where the ibuprofen, Motrin, Advil is going to irritate more of your kidneys and cause more of the GI bleeding. Harvard Medical School rolls out new rules to stop its faculty from accepting bribes from Big Pharma. This has been going on forever. This is no secret here. This is with Boston Globe, July 21st, 2010. Little personal gifts, travel, meals, simple things like that. It's an endless list. It's not as bad as what it was in the past, but it still kind of goes on. They get these little kickbacks, you know. It's kind of interesting. You know, we get patients that come in. You know, I wanted to just do a little annual follow-up physical with my medical doctor, and it's like every time I'm in there, all I want to do is write me a new prescription. They want to throw this in there, and I'm like, I got to battle them and tell them, no, I'm feeling fine. Why do I want this? And you know, it's like some patients tell us it's like they got a drug of the month they're trying to push every time I'm in there. But that's been going on forever. We can't find anything wrong with you, so we're going to go ahead and treat you for symptom deficiency disorder. They got a name for everything today. I based a bunch of this lecture off of a book by David Brownstein. He goes over a quote, a ton and a ton. You can't poison a crucial enzyme or block an important receptor for a long term and expect a good result. This is an excellent book, and I'm giving one of these away here tonight. Sharon, could I get that list? Call off some random person there, actually. Caesar Halou. All right. Did I butcher that pretty bad? That's all you. If you're interested in that book, in this book here, you can go to davidbrownstein.com. He's got a ton of good books here. He hits up a lot of the popular, the statins, osteoporosis, hormone replacement therapy topics in that book there. It's a nice, easy read book. It shouldn't be too over your head there. I got some vitamin D's to give away here this evening. Yes.
When Dr. Brownstein has his lectures, is that open to the public?
No, he charges for them.
Oh, okay, but it's open to the public.
He has two different lectures. He'll lecture to the physicians in that through Viatron, Biox Research, but then his own lectures that he does for his patients, he charges with that there. He's in West Bloomfield. I'm going to do another lecture in January. The date isn't specific yet. It's going to be Killing the Cravings Part 2. It's a follow-up with Dr. Tent's audio lecture about minerals here. I may be changing the time to doing these on Wednesdays. Do you guys really like these Tuesdays, or is Wednesdays all right with you? A little bit later. That's what I was going to do. About Wednesday, about 7 to 9.
Way to drink cleaner water?
We get asked that a lot. Reverse osmosis is probably your best water you're going to drink there. If you're going to do a bottled water, that's a great question. What water to drink? Bottled Aquafina, if you're going to do a bottled water. I'm going to tell you all right now the waters you don't want to drink. Number 1 is going to be tap water. Number 2 is going to be well water. The third water is going to be bottled spring water. The fourth water you don't want to drink is alkaline water. I'll talk about that a little separately, but those top 3, well water, tap, and bottled spring, have too much inorganic calcium in that water, and that inorganic calcium is going to build up in your joints and your muscles and make you stiff. All these older, stiff people, first thing we're going to ask them, what kind of water are you drinking? Or if you're cramping up at night, if you get those cramps in your calves and your legs, what kind of water are you drinking? We're going to ask about that water. We're going to use that phospho liquid, which binds the calcium and metabolizes that out of your joints to get those cramps away. That works very excellent. That fourth water I mentioned, alkaline water, no one understands pH. The book that we quote with that there is Folk Medicine by Dr. Jarvis, who understands this all through the apple cider vinegar stuff. And everyone drinking this 10.0 water or whatever it is, all the research, everyone on the internet is going to completely disagree with Dr. Tent and I, saying, everyone's too acidic, you need to drink alkaline water, this and that. But hang on one second, when your body's too alkaline, calcium goes out of solution, build up in your joints, your ankles. Everyone's digestive tracts are already too alkaline. That's why everyone's on antacids and everything. So start drinking some of that, toying around with your pH. There's a little effects everywhere, but it's another water that will make you stiff too, because that calcium will go out of solution, build up in your joints and muscle, make you cramp, and give you that stiffness. You had a question?
Yeah, I always thought reverse osmosis of purified water, is that good for you?
Mm-hmm.
All right, and that's in there, but where I live, I've got a community well, and I've got a reverse osmosis system on that.
That's fine. We get some patients in that's a great question about the well and all that with the water. We had some patients that we get in the office that we run a hair analysis on them, and their arsenic's through the roof. They say they get their well checked, they don't drink the water, blah, blah, blah. I'd have to disagree with whoever's checking some of these wells, because the hair analysis shows otherwise, that these patients are getting polluted with arsenic. And whether you're not drinking that water or not, if you're showering in that well water, you're inhaling that arsenic, so you'll get that from that.
Is there anything we can do to either test it? I mean, I've got a water treatment, a water softener and whatnot that supposedly removes your toxins that are in there. And how do we protect ourselves?
That will be at this lecture. The higher you are in your minerals, the least likely you will be to suck up the environment. If you're nourished on your 91 things, you're not going to suck up the environment. But if your body's starving for minerals, metals replace minerals, so you'll be more likely to suck up environmental toxins and metals being deficient.
What can we take if we're out and about? You're saying spring water is not good for us either.
If you're going to do a water, do bottled Aquafina. The bottled spring water's just got a thicker taste to it. That's the calcium in there. And I'm not saying you can't drink that. The plastics has the bisphenol A. That's a whole nother issue alone there. But if you're dealing with that cramping, those muscle aches, you're going to want to stay away from that bottled spring water.
How about Penta water?
Penta water? That's good.
Okay, and on those minerals you're talking about, don't you get too much iron?
Actually, Biox Research has a multi-mineral that is copper and iron free, if you're worried about that.
I've had an alkalizer for quite a number of years, and I don't have any problem at all.
That's good. Not everyone's going to be that pH sensitive.
I find out that in Japan, 25% of the households have alkaline.
Mm-hmm. Now, and you go on the internet, you research everything, it's going to be completely against what Dr. Tent and I say, so that's why half the time we don't even bother bringing it up. But you look at all these people going through the little seasonal allergies right now. You cut them out of their, give them that Cal Ammo, which is the pill form of apple cider vinegar, cut them of the citrus, and a lot of those allergies disappear. Citrus, although it's acidic in nature, causes you to have an alkaline reaction in your body, and they'll start sneezing. Dr. Ten is very pH sensitive. I could probably drink pH water and not have an effect. He does that, he'll have more of an effect than I. Some people are a little bit more pH sensitive than others. So, yes. Pardon me? Yes. They take out some, to what claims that they say that they take out. It's kind of hit or miss. Shackley's got a new one that supposedly takes out the lead they're promoting. So, if it really does that, that's great, because they had a newspaper article in Detroit, or about Detroit a few months ago. The whole area is just completely polluted with lead, and it's affecting the MEP scores of these kids. They're completely correlating. These scores are below average around the nation, and all the lead that's in these systems in these schools around there. This test right here, hang on one second, the Asira test. I'm going to give out 2 gift certificates. Not too many people exactly know what it is, and every time I try to explain it, I butcher it. So I'm going to recommend you to go to asira.com and go to the video link to that. And they show some video demonstrations. It's bioenergetic testing. We use this as a fine-tuning technique. If people's allergies aren't responding with the Cal Ammo and whatnot, we'll get a little bit more specific. We got some kind of cool protocols that we've been using with that. So if you're interested in that, check it out there. I'm going to give out 2 gift certificates with that there. You could fax your orders over to that number there if you're interested in just being a little bit more convenient there. And it freezes up on me. And this is pretty cool here. Starting November, beginning of November here, I'm getting a newsletter that'll be sent out through email. So if you are interested in receiving a newsletter, send your email address to dhschiropractic@yahoo, and you could be getting the first newsletter of the office beginning November 1st. Typically, my PowerPoints for my lectures, I let you guys go on there and just download that there. Instead, I'm just going to have you email me. And if you want this lecture tonight, I could send it to you. And you could also, I'm going to have a sign-up sheet at the office, so if you want to sign up at the office, you can sign up at the office here too with that. This is kind of cool. This is something new that's going to be coming in the next few months here. It's a cold laser. This is all FDA approved to treat these conditions: acne, back pain, degenerative disc disease, fibromyalgia, inflammation, lesions, neck pain, TMJ, all this tendonitis, issues, rotator cuffs, all these aches and pains. This is going to be pretty cool here. Cold lasers, there's a hot laser and there's a cold laser. Hot lasers are surgical lasers that they use to pierce people's skin. Cold lasers, it's like this light pen here. This is a cold laser here. And the certain one that's like this here is an infrared one that penetrates 5 centimeters under the skin to help regenerate tissue growth, activates the mitochondria in these cells to produce more ATP, energy. When you hear these athletes making miraculous recoveries from certain injuries, this is the kind of stuff they're doing behind the scenes. This is Lance Armstrong stuff, all these football players from knee injuries. You will heal 10 times faster, along with the nutritional things that you do too, using a cold laser. Diverse Health Services on Facebook there. You can search us up there. We could put some cool links on there. And here's my email. So I do not have the lecture on that Yahoo account. If you want this copy of tonight's PowerPoints, send me an email at that account there, and I'll email it to you. If not, you could wait till this comes out on DVD and catch some of the things that you may have missed tonight. I believe that is it. But do you guys have, you had another question here, sir?
Well, I just wanted to mention something. If you're going to be talking about minerals, just a short time ago I discovered angstrom silver and angstrom mineral.
Mm-hmm.
And what the angstrom is that's the size. These particles are so tiny that you can take this stuff and rub it on your skin and it'll go right through.
Mm-hmm.
And so then if you take this as a liquid, it's all a liquid, and the prices are quite reasonable. And you're not depending on your digestive system anymore. As soon as you take that mineral in,
That's kind of cool. You know, a lot of people have dead stomachs, and with a dead stomach, if you're not producing enough hydrochloric acid, which as you get older, your body doesn't produce all those digestive enzymes as efficiently as it did in your 20s, you need that hydrochloric acid to pick up your minerals. Another cool way to see if you're deficient in something, you know, a lot of people are worried, since we're living in the north, the whole iodine and hypothyroidism thing. You can put liquid iodine on your skin, the orange-brown stuff, and let it set there for a half hour. And if that fades out in that half hour, that's being sucked through your skin, and you're deficient in that iodine. Cool little iodine test there. So, anyone else?
One of Dr. Tent's tapes, he mentioned something about kinetic water filter.
That's what he uses there. You can check that out too. That's a filter that they use in hospitals. That's going to get pharmaceuticals out of the water. That's very, very expensive. But if you want to get the Cadillac of water systems, that Kinetico system is probably your best bet.
The reason I know that iodine works painted on is that in preventive situations where people are exposed to radiation,
Mm-hmm.
they painted their skin with iodine so that they would have enough iodine for their thyroid so that they wouldn't pick up the strontium or whatever it is.
Yes, absolutely. That's your number one.
It does work.
Yep. If you bump up your iodine, Dr. Tent's mentioned that before. You know, they dropped a nuclear bomb on us.
Yeah.
Taking that iodine is your number one preventive thing of, you know.
What about iodine in sushi? Isn't there iodine in the...
Yeah, kelp. There's seafood, they use a lot of kelp, and the iodine's in that kelp. Organically bound minerals of standard process has that kelp, and that's where that iodine source comes from. Yep. You see a lot of parasite issues. I had a pretty cool guy who came in with Crohn's, been dealing with Crohn's since he was 10 years old. I was asking him what he eats a lot. He's about 25 now. You know, he's like, the last 5 years I've been getting pretty heavy into sushi. And I just tell you what, some of these things I've cleared out of people who are sushi eaters, you probably won't ever want to eat sushi again. I don't know if you guys have seen some of my previous lectures. I had a tapeworm I cleared out of a buddy about that big. But he came in for his follow-up visit just yesterday. He had loose bowel movements, 6 to 8 a day, and stabbing and just lower abdominal pain. One visit, I was just like, take this stuff and go away for a month, come back. He came back and he's like, I can't believe. He's like, I got regular bowel movements, I got no pain. He's like, I'm never gonna eat one bit of sushi again. So kind of interesting.
What if you just eat vegetarian and not fish? Because it's fish that's good.
Yeah, I don't trust those. The Chinese are trying to kill us.
What if I made it myself and then it's
Yeah, I trust that source a little better. Doug, you could cut that there.